Hello and welcome to another fresh episode of Research Plus Practice. A couple of weeks back, Shashwat and I did an interesting video on small wins, where we argued that one of the strategies that you can look at to move beyond the present crisis of COVID and how it might be affecting your business is to make small-term objectives, is to make small-term goals and go after them. In fact, we received a couple of very interesting feedback on this video. One was with regards to the how do you frame the objectives and how does it link to your larger goal. And the other, of course, was on investments. So how do you make investments during downturn? So to the first thing first, I was recently going through a documentary on World War II. And exactly 80 years back in 1940, this was a time when the Battle of Britain was raging. Nazis had overpowered France by then. They were sitting right across the English Channel and looking to take the battle to Britain. Britain was seeing a new Prime Minister take oath. So Winston Churchill had taken up the mantle of Britain then. He's said to have given some of the best speeches, some of the finest examples in English language at that time. It might be a good read for you sometime. And but to our point, Britain was undergoing a change and Nazis were looking to attack Britain. And the Battle of Britain is said to be the turning point in World War II. Because till then, Nazis had overpowered almost every army that they had come across. And the first reversal sort of happened in 1940 when they made a very big effort to overpower Britain but failed. In fact, it is said that they employed the Blitz strategy, where for 57 days continuously they bombed London, they bombed the other industrial towns in Britain, but they were not able to break the spirit of British people, and Britain was able to come out of this battle successful. Now, it is said in July, one of the Russian ambassadors went to Churchill and said, Prime Minister, what is your strategy for defeating Hitler? And Churchill is said to have remarked, my strategy to defeating Hitler is to survive the next 3 months. Now, if you read about Churchill, you'll know that when he took over the Prime Ministership of Britain, right through May and June, he had made it very clear that Britain will stand against Hitler. They would fight till the end and that victory at all cost. But in July, he knew exactly what he was into, and his immediate goal was just to survive 3 months. The larger picture was clear, and that was to win at any cost. But the immediate goal was just survive the 3 months. And that was because he felt that once the 3 months happened, in winters, there would be no war. It's very cold, and so the forces will take a break, and thereby giving them an opportunity to recoup. So I found that an interesting example of small win, of an immediate thing that someone is setting out, which helps the team rally around and come out with a positive result. Now to the second part, and which is a very interesting question. So how do you decide whether you need to make an investment in downturn or not? Now I'm referring here to work of Pankaj Hemawat. I've given a link to his work in the description below. And he talks about an interesting aspect, and he says every time you are making an investment, and especially during downturn, try to understand that there are two very critical risks that are involved in investment. One, of course, is the financial risk. So typically you'll have your financial team working on net present value, NPV calculations, RR calculations, and coming back to you with very rational arguments as to whether you should invest or not. And of course, the other risk is the competitive risk. So competitive risk talks about, and we discussed this briefly in video 1 of this series, when we talked about competitive advantage, that in the end of the day, when you are competing in the market, you need to have some advantage, or you need to compete with certain assets, certain forces, so that you get the desired results, you get the desired premium in the market. And so the argument here is that when you are evaluating your investments, try to realize that you need to balance both your financial risk so that you do not invest here and there and lose money. But also remember that investment is critical so that you maintain your competitive edge. To give you an example, think about company A and company B working in a very commoditized market. So both of them get a proposal of investing in their plant, in their factories. Now, if they do make the investment, the average cost of production might go down and would go down, and so giving them a better premium. Now, in the downturn recession scenario, both of these companies get a proposal. Company A evaluates the proposal, finds the hurdle rate to be high and that the project returns are poor, and they do not make any investment. Company B also finds it touch and go. Maybe their hurdle rate was slightly lower, and they feel that they make that investment. Once the recession gets over or as the recession extends, company B, when it is going in the market, they have a larger cushion because their cost of production has gone down, and so they have a larger cushion to be aggressive in the market. Whereas company A is now at a disadvantage. Now, if 1 or 2 years down the line, they still again think of making an investment, the hurdle rate would become even more difficult. Why? Because anyways you are facing the brunt at the market end, because company B is being very aggressive, and nothing has changed at the back, at the other end, or towards the production side. So many companies fall for this trap, is that they do not make any investments during these downturns and recessions, and when this gets done, and when you are on the other side, you are at a disadvantage. So it's critical that you balance these both the financial as well as the competitive risk. And just three thoughts on how you go about doing that. So one is, keep the long term or the bigger picture clear, and then only you can have the shorter investments made clearly. So when you're making financial investments, you would have heard this many a times. Don't forget that mantra, that once you make an financial investment, that lasts many years. So it's a long-term investment, but you need to be very clear which investments will stay with you for that duration. Second, competitive risk, competitive positioning. Every investment, you are positioning yourself with respect to your competition, and do realize that it is important that you maintain that competitive advantage so that you do well in the market. And then finally, this too shall pass, and post-COVID, there's a world beyond COVID-19 as well. But every recession and downturn has taught us one thing, that all the relations, all the things change dramatically as you come on the other side. So how will your relations with your clients, with your suppliers, with your employers change, with your employees change post this COVID? Do remember about this as you make your investment. You want to make an investment which survives and which benefits you post COVID-19, not something which becomes a drag or a burden. So what are the relations that are going to change? If there is an investment, if there is a relation which is not going to be sustained post COVID-19, well, you can hold your investments back. But for the future that is coming in, maybe this is the right time to make an investment. So that's all from our end. I hope you got a sense of how to go about making the investments for future and how to make investments in these present downturns. So the answer is, you need to do it, and keep these three things in your mind when you're doing that. So that's all from our end. Shashwat and I are happy to bring this series to you. In fact, we are starting the Research Plus Practice Invitation series, and we'll be sharing that with you soon. So thanks for being with us. Do share your thoughts and comments. And until next time, goodbye and good luck.